the way from Birmingham, Alabama, Mrs. Yolanda Flowers. Miss Flowers, thank you. This is an honor. I can't tell you that I've had the pleasure to interview a politician on this level. And I am so elated. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm the one that is blessed. I am the one that is privileged. I am. Because you didn't have to be kind. No one has to be kind. But when people show kindness to me, that just captures my heart. So thank you, Mary Eva.
Gosh,
you.
I'm nothing but a water bucket, so you know. Miss
Well, you and me both. Okay, we have started.
I have heard so many wonderful things about you.
Wow.
There are so many history-making things about you. You were the first Black African-American candidate in 2022 to run the governor's race.
Yes.
You are a very educated, smart woman.
Thank you.
I would love to hear about, because when I read your bio, I was in awe. Tell me about your profession before you became this politician. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's see. I started out as a reading instructor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just helping those little people, who were at risk. And this is when I lived in Tennessee at the time. I am originally from Birmingham, born and raised. But I started out as that. It's kind of like helped to pilot this new Edmark reading program. And that's what I did. And then it went from there to working as a what you call a paraprofessional. And I did that while I was paying for my way through college, because I went back to school at the age of 43.
Amazing.
Something like that. I did that. I didn't want anything full time. But that was just enough for me to, get in the door and do what I needed to do to take care of my college, because I was determined I am not going to have any, debt. I'm not. But of course I ended up in,
Absolutely.
doing that.
Yes.
But for my first 5 years of schooling, I did, pay my way. So it started off as a reading instructor. And then once I accumulated some degrees,
Yes.
I obtained my bachelor's in audiology, because I was wanting to be an audiologist. That was my desire. And so I did that, and then I fell in love with, of course, speech therapy. So it just, still working with children at risk, just help them, so they can be successful. And I just furthered, on into the rehabilitation program that was offered at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And I guess you can tell now, I just love service.
You really
I
do.
love service. Anyone that is needing help, assistance, that's me.
Oh my God, you are a true servant, and I love that about you. What point in your life prompted you to say, I want to get into politics, and especially you saw a need deep down in your heart. I want to run for the governor's race. What prompted
Well,
that?
to tell you what prompted this, now when we moved back to Alabama, moved back to Birmingham, I was able to land a job as a just special ed teacher. It just boom, 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 just perfect. The special ed teacher there was at Hayes, K through 8. K through 8. That used to be a high school. That's where my siblings went to high school. So I went there, and they said, yes, Ms. Flowers, we need you, because the instructor, she's got cancer, she has cancer, and she's not going to be able to continue. So I moved right on in, and everything was in place. And she came in just to greet me.
Yes.
And she said, you can have everything. So I'm like, I took all of her books and I just made it my own. Of course, I had some things of my own.
Yes.
But that's where I was able to get the children, pull them in. We would have one-on-one, or we would have a very small group, and still working with them so that they can learn to read, and learn how to tie their shoes, learn how to tell time. So I was actually just teaching. And then from there, it's just an effect. It's just what just took place. So yeah, that's my.
And did it come to you as an epiphany? Why the governor's race?
Okay, because I forgot where I was supposed to be going right there. There's some little things going on. So what took place, my grandson, one of my grandchildren, he said, Granny. And at the time, I did hold a position as a secretary for the neighborhood association. So we have, in Birmingham, we have 99 neighborhoods.
Oh.
And they have, but 99 neighborhoods, but like 23 communities. And so in each neighborhood, you will have a president, vice president, and a secretary. And the city gives an allotment, to each of the counties, each of the the neighborhoods, so that they can, revitalize their neighborhood, make it nice, or if they want to contribute to the school, whatever, just doing neighborly service. So I served as a secretary, and my grandson, was saying, Granny, had you thought about running for city council? And I said, no, son, I haven't. And at the time, my husband was ill, and I was going back and forth, to the doctors with him. We did a lot of traveling because his doctors were located in Tennessee. And at the time, he just didn't trust the doctors in Birmingham. So we were going back and forth. And I told him, I said, no, son, Granny doesn't have time. Granddaddy's sick. And he kept at it. And then the last thing he said, well, Granny, after a while, he'll come and go. And he said, well, pray about it.
Wow.
He did. And I said, and he was about 10, I guess, at the time. And I said, okay, Zeke, I'll pray about it. So a couple of weeks, he left it alone. A couple of weeks later or so, I was just doing my own daily things, going to my, my own personal space for prayer, like I normally do. And just as if I'm talking to you, I just hear this voice say, well, you promised him. He didn't say, Yolanda, no, anything. He said, you promised him that you would pray about it. And I said, oh, Lord. I said, yes, you are right. You are right. And so I just went on into prayer. And as I was praying, he said, he said, Deborah delivered the children of Israel to victory. And I said, you're right. You're right. So I was led to read over that passage, that story in Judges chapter 4. And I said, wow, you are actually right, Lord, you did. And a peace came over me. So I talked to my grandson. And he said, Granny, you need to tell Granddaddy. I said,
he's so grown.
Yes. I said, I don't know, Zeke. I don't know if I need to do that, if I should. Because Granddaddy won't be receptive, that's all. He said, no, I believe he will. I believe he will accept it. And I believe he'll be glad, Granny. I said, well, Zeke, I'll let you know. I don't know. So, of course, some more time transpired. Right? And so it was a beautiful spring, but it was warm, like this time of the year.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned it to him, and we were just talking, and it just came out.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, good. Get that crazy woman." Good. And I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes, anything is better than what we have." And I know we're on live, but
No.
he's being honest.
Yes.
He's being honest.
Wow.
And so, and I said, "Well, okay then, okay." So I did. I pursued it. He gave me his blessing.
Oh my gosh, that was wonderful.
Yeah, so I went through the training that was offered through the state, through the national even, that was offered in June of 2021.
Wow.
So I was able to take that. It was about a week's training. And very intense. So I have notebooks to show that I did. You know, the notes.
Was it overwhelming for you?
Kind of, sort of.
It's a lot to absorb.
Yeah, but it's just like, oh, I haven't been in school in so long, so that's what it was. It was school. And I had to take down, of course I took down all the notes because I wanted to have something where I can go back to, just in case I didn't understand, or just to make sure that I was doing what I should do.
Right.
So I did that, started my fundraising. So normally, the May leading towards the next election is when you start your training. So I was already, well, the fundraising, so I was already behind in that time. And so we started our fundraising back in July of 2021. But go back a little bit, I called my grandson back and I let him know. I was like happy, and I knew he would be happy. He said, "Granny, I told you. See there, I told you Granddad will understand and be receptive." I said, "Yeah, you did. You really did." And so that's how it started.
Wow.
You know.
And you've been going forth ever since?
Ever since. I haven't stopped.
What are your views for Alabama? What do you want to see for the citizens in Alabama? I know education is big for you.
Yes.
That is major.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you want to see come into fruition?
The first thing, above all the other platform issues, is unity. I see so much discord within our own Black nation.
Come on.
And I have to say Black nation. You know.
That just did something to me, yes.
Yeah, I see that. And I see that how it was strategically done, historically. And this is something that plays over my mind over and over again because I see the discord. I see the mistrust. I see the lack of love, you know. And I think about the Willie Lynch letter. Okay. And how it all began. Because before all of this, during those 26 passages in the different slave ships, we know that there was discord in Africa. Well, it was in Al-Capelon. Okay, that's the name, Al-Capelon. Where we had our one chief against another chief. You know, and still wanting to obtain ground, property, you know, prestige, power. And we know, spirit travels. And it travels swiftly.
It does.
Okay. Because it has no physical form per se that it can channel through. So it travels. So that same spirit come from our motherland on over. But Willie Lynch was able to capture that thing because he knew that you put a people together, and it's been proven that they will revolt, they will come together, they will be unified and have a unified mind set, okay? What he told the slavers, the slave owners, that this is how you can stop them from coming together and revolting. You separate them. You use the light-skinned Negroes, put them in the house, and you separate them from the dark and put them in the field.
Absolutely.
Now, what it did was it created an animosity,
A divide, yeah.
a great divide amongst the people, our nation. Okay, so and it caused where those who were in house to stand and wish that they were free enough to be able to go to what we call an invisible church, where those who worked in the field can go to the forest, you know, at sundown, have a lake, and they can pray and praise, and they can revert. You know, they were able to construct their drums and, you know, and just be free for a moment. But those house Negroes couldn't do that. They were always on guard. They had to make sure that they didn't say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. And the slave owners would give them clothing, but of course they, you know, hand-me-downs. Those a little better than what they had, and certainly better than those who work in the field. And so they caused that spirit, go back to that, these various spirits, okay, the spirit of jealousy, okay? Wow. And I see that it's still residing today. Yes. So the most important thing right now for Alabama is for us to come together.
Come together, unity.
It has to be. It's a must. And the way I have to bring it about is through truth.
Understood.
It's through truth.
What are some of the things that you want to change besides the unity? Some of the things that are policies and things. Are there anything that you see that you would want to change?
That's a lot of things. A lot of things. Starting with education, because that, you know, that's the foundation. Outside of God, you have God, the Word of God, then you have the education, and everything else just tears on up. We have this Choose Act. Okay, I was opposed to it when it was on the docket in 2022.
And tell me, what was your reasoning? Because you're in this, and so you know. So to help someone like me and the peers around me understand, why were you against the Choose Act?
The Choose Act, there's a couple of reasons. The first reason was that it was taking the money from the public schools. Okay.
Wow.
And see, that money follows the child. So you have like $7,000 that's allocated to every child in the public school system. If that child decides, or parent decides to pull that child out and take them to, or send them to a charter school or a private school, that money will follow. And what does that do? That cut back the resources that our teachers need. We certainly need higher wages.
Absolutely.
But what I was pushing for is that our teachers also need assistance. They need paraprofessionals in every classroom to help maintain classroom order, as well as if they have to pull those students that are just a little behind, they could do that. That's something I did when I worked, you know, in the school system in Tennessee. So I pulled the students that were a little behind, and I would help them, even if it, that entailed me combing their hair, giving them lotion or whatever it did. I did that.
Wow.
But this is that's one of the things that I was opposed to the Choose Act. Another thing is that I would tell them, I said, look, every parent, if they decide to send their child across the city, you know, to another side of the city, you know, you have to think about transportation. Okay, so there are various roadblocks, things that will impede the progress. You know, and another thing, I still see that that's another way to get segregation. into
Wow.
the school system, because you know our education, with the CRT and all of that, when that was on, it was just one of the things that the talk. And many of our counterparts were fearful, didn't want it even to be taught. The whole story of Alabama, the whole story, the whole history of America, the whole history of the world. Because we are taught in every state, they have to learn the state history. They have to learn American history. And when you get to college, world history. Those are some things that and the subjects you have to take. And so when a people is deprived of their heritage of truth, that causes them to not succeed. Okay? And I see that in our race.
Wow.
We have, I'm sure we know a lot about Martin Luther King,
Right.
even about Abraham Lincoln. We know
Absolutely.
a lot about some of what we call those major ones, but it's still
More.
systemically and strategically placed. So my thing, as before, is teach the whole story. Don't deprive our children of growing, because if they don't eat, and I take the word like that, if they don't eat the knowledge, they won't grow in the knowledge that
That's
they should
deep.
be.
That is.
Okay, and that's what we are depriving our children, and therefore the state education department is not successful in implementing their curriculums, because they try to put everyone in this little bitty container here, this little box, and this you just cannot. If the child is a square don't fit in a circle.
Wow, absolutely.
Okay, mathematically, geomatically,
Absolutely. Yes.
whatever you want to put it, it won't.
Absolutely.
And so that's why, we have to learn to curtail our, I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but we have to frame, I'm going to use that, frame our curriculum to fit our children.
That's right.
Children learn differently. We all do.
Absolutely.
We all do. We
Absolutely.
have kinesthetic learners, we have auditory learners, okay?
Absolutely.
We have all of these touchy-feely visual learners.
Yes.
We have all this, and to deprive them of that is doing them a disservice, and that's what we've been doing. That's the reason why our test scores are low, because our teachers are not even trained to, a good teacher though, not all teachers are good teachers, I have to say that, but a very good teacher is a type of individual that will watch their student, just like a mom, a good mother will watch their child and just say, yeah, that's what they're doing. That's, and be able to be creative for that child, to win that child. If that child has learning disabilities, that's a perfect thing to do. If that child has, in any form or fashion, behavior issues, which is a disability, okay?
Absolutely.
That teacher, if that teacher is good, they can keep that child from going to detention, okay? Getting in trouble, going before the principal all the time, having to call the parents and just say, Johnny is not doing right. You need a good teacher can do that. When you think about the teacher, I guess you can say, in a sense, is really a parent.
Because they spend all that time with the children.
That's right. 5 days a week, sometimes 6. All depends on if the child is doing extracurricular things, chess club in the band, or cheerleading. So there's extra time.
Extra time. Yes.
And so that's what I want to tackle, and what I had proposed in 2022, and I'm using it again, is a term I use, it's called looping. Looping. Now, I don't know. Now, I think Miss B may understand this. When we were in school, before we started, our teachers would come that knew that we were coming, because the parent had to register us and everything. But that kindergarten teacher will come to your house, get to know the parents, see the environment, get to know the teacher, the child, and allow the family to know who they are. And they will say, I will be your child's teacher for the next year. Okay? Not just have open house, not just do that, but they will go to the parents' house. Okay? That's what happened to my children when we lived in Tennessee.
Oh my
Surely
goodness.
did, surely did. And I thought, this is really great.
It is.
And so you have this one-on-one. But the looping thing, it will include that, but that teacher will be with the student up until they graduate 5th grade.
Oh.
Because they're shaping and molding, because now, see, that teacher
Relationship.
knows how their child, and knows what issues the child may have. Those notes will follow that child to
Oh my goodness. So they would teach that child all subjects.
all subjects.
Wow.
Yes, we teach that child.
And that is what you would call looping.
Looping. Yeah.
Mm.
Keeping us all in the loop. The whole
Oh my
family in the
goodness.
loop.
Wow.
And that is very instrumental. It really is, and very productive. So that's one of the things that I wanted to, and I'm still pushing for that.
Wow.
Another
What are
thing-
some of the things? Yeah. What are some of your other
Another
things?
thing with that is the lottery. You
Mm.
know, some call it the educational
Yeah.
lottery. Just call it the lottery. Don't put anything
Right. It
fancy
is
on
what
it.
it is. It's the law.
And the lottery will help with the education. Will give wages, higher wages,
Right.
help them.
Well, what do you think the problem is now? Because that has been on the ballot, seems like some years
It
now.
has been.
And I see other states such as Georgia, where it really has helped the state of Georgia with scholarships and all of these different things. What do you think the problem is?
Well, you know, here, out of the 5 million people here in Alabama, there is a 1, maybe 2% that's really wealthy. And I'm being candid, I'm being frank, I'm being straight with you.
Understood.
That although they will tack on the fact that we're in the Bible Belt, and you got this Christian nationalist thing going on, and for whatever reason other than they want to put this on into it, you know, saying that it may be lewd money or whatever, you know, gambling took place even during crisis time. You know, just like voting took place even during crisis time.
Absolutely.
So we need to be straight and honest, and that's one thing that I haven't. I've been listening. I've been like, well, God, you know, are you? What is your take on it? And I know man take a thing and just run amok with it and try to say and put God's seal on it, like God's, you know, said, and He hasn't. So, and I've been listening, you know, listening to see if I can hear anything from heaven in regards to that, and I haven't. But this lottery, well, we know anything, you do anything that is drinking, you know, smoking, you know,
Eating
those
so
things
much.
carry bad vibes with it, you know, it tends to cause a person to do things that are not, but to deprive someone. If they have their $1, that's all, and they just say, Father, all I just need is $50. You know, if they can go and purchase that scratch off. You know, who's to say or prevent or stop someone for how they spending money? And this is what I see that 1 or 2% is doing, and it's talking into some of our legislators' ears about this thing. That's why even to our Poach Creek Indians, you know. So that's some backhanded things that's going on there. You know, they've even have gone so far as to buy the dog track there in Birmingham. Okay. So gambling has been.
They just want us to
But
have the
they
money.
just don't want the money to get in the hands of the people so
The
that
poor.
they can better themselves.
The poor.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And I mean, it's detrimental and harmful as it is,
Mm-hmm.
want to not allow it.
Wow.
Sure, they had bingo,
Halls.
bingo halls
Mhm.
and things, and the machines going, and then all of a sudden when the money was coming in, like say for instance here in Fairfield, I'm saying here, like I'm in Fairfield,
Alabama.
I mean, they had a lot of bingo, you know, little things
Yes.
going on.
Mhm.
And they were really thriving,
Mm.
starting to get, but and all of a sudden, boom, they snatch the things out. Oh, well, why? You know, what's the, you know, the money is, the thing is, you just have to they have to do the due diligence in making sure that the money is going into the city.
Absolutely.
And into the community.
Right.
Okay, helping the schools and not putting it in your pocket.
Gotcha.
So,
Absolutely.
good stewardship, that's what we need,
Good.
stewardship for that. But the lottery will not only just help in the education, and as you as explained, it will help in infrastructure. You know, we're having issues in Lowndes County, issues in North Birmingham, issues in Pritchard,
All over.
because of bad pipes,
Wow.
okay, old pipes,
Mm-hmm.
because of chemical spills, toxic waste.
Yes.
You know, the money will help with that.
And absolutely.
The lottery will help
Absolutely.
clean that up. And for the life of me, I just cannot, I try to, you know, and I just talk, and my grandchildren say, Granny, what you talking to? I said, oh, I'm just kind of talking to, I'm just talking to myself, you know.
Yes.
Trying to figure out, well, why is that so much deadlocking and filibustering and pushing back? And when they're supposed to help the citizens.
Gotcha.
They're supposed to work with the citizens. That's the part of the Democratic Republic that America is. But we find in that the representatives that we're electing, they're not working for us, or working with us for that matter.
Gotcha. Before we end the first part of this interview, let me ask you, what is your take on the SAVE Act?
The SAVE Act is AKA Kill Act. I'm saying Kill Act. That's what it is. What it's doing is going to kill our voters' rights. It's going to kill our civil rights. Okay, it's already dismantling. It's just taking it apart. It's going to destroy the 14th Amendment. It's going to destroy a lot of things. A lot of things. Not just because if a woman was to get married, you know, she's going to have to make sure she changed her name, you know, on her Social Security card and all that, you know. And because of this is what's happening, they want you to make sure that you present everything, all your documents, to ensure that you are U.S. citizens and all, you know. So that's what is happening. That
Yes,
is, and it's still a separation. It's still a separation. My fear is that we will, because that is put in, you know, out there, it is causing us to fall more and more backwards than where we are. You know, like God called the children of Israel a backsliding heifer. That's kind of like what we are. We're digressing instead of progressing.
Absolutely.
We're not doing.
And I think, you know, it's just getting people out to vote. People,
Our children, I mean, our
Yeah.
millennials,
Yes,
our
absolutely.
Generation X's,
Yes,
those of the
absolutely.
50s, they're very, and I'm sure, and our Generation Z's, and of course our Alphas don't know much about all of that because they're
Right.
children, they're babies.
Right, absolutely.
But those who know, they've become very lackadaisical. They feel as if our vote won't count.
Absolutely, and it doesn't count if you don't vote.
If you don't vote. But you know what? I hear that mostly out of people of color. Those of us of African
Yes.
descent.
That's true. That's
Okay.
true. That's
And,
true. Absolutely.
And I guess, and it's probably because they see, you think about the United States Constitution, where it clarifies that those of us who've been enslaved are just 3/5 of a person. And that for our votes, it's just 3/5 of a vote. But as I stated in 2022, you know, all you need is just, you vote.
That's right.
You vote.
That's right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Because those 3/5 of a vote adds up.
Adds up.
So, guys, there's going to be a two-part to this interview. I am so excited to know that this wonderful lady and her campaign manager came all the way 3 hours here to spend time with me and to be a part of the book Lush. And to me, this is history. This is history. I am so appreciative. We will be right back with part 2. I Am Simply Me by Mary Eva. I bring you a spotlight with purpose and exposure with impact. Oh my goodness. You are just so calm and so...
Yes, I guess that's the teacher part, that's what everyone says.
Yes,
That's
yes.
something I was a teacher before I became one.
Yeah. You want to do a stretch and...
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm right
okay,
now.
okay. Pull your jacket around. Mike.
Oh, okay, okay.